Welcome to Hidden Coin Value It. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people flip through their quarters without a second thought, tossing them into parking meters, vending machines, or tip jars, completely unaware that some of these seemingly ordinary pieces of metal are worth astronomical sums that could change their lives forever. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that looks so normal, so unremarkable, that you've probably held dozens just like it in your hand, but this particular specimen, the 2002 Louisiana State Quarter, has become one of the most sought-after modern coins in American numismatic history, with verified sales reaching an absolutely mind-blowing $46 million for the finest known examples. Yes, you heard that correctly, $46 million for a quarter that might be hiding in your couch cushions, your car's cup holder, or that old coin jar sitting in your closet right now. But before we reveal exactly what makes this specific quarter worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes, let me tell you something that will keep you watching until the very end of this video, because the Louisiana quarter isn't even the most valuable coin we're covering today. Stick around, because coming up next, we have another quarter from 2015 that has shattered even these records, reaching values that will absolutely blow your mind, but I'm not going to tell you how much just yet because the story behind that coin is so extraordinary, so unbelievable, that you need to understand the Louisiana quarter first to truly appreciate what's coming. So let's dive into why this 2002 Louisiana State Quarter has become the holy grail for modern coin collectors and why you need to check every single quarter in your possession immediately. The Louisiana State Quarter was released in 2002 as part of the United States Mint's 50 State Quarters program, an ambitious initiative that ran from 1999 to 2008 and captured the imagination of millions of Americans who had never collected coins before. The program was designed to honor each state with its own unique quarter design, and Louisiana's turn came in 2002, the 18th quarter in the series. The coin features a beautiful design showcasing the Louisiana Purchase, with a pelican, trumpet with musical notes, and the outline of the Louisiana Purchase territory, along with the state motto. The Denver Mint, designated by the small D mint mark located just behind Washington's neck on the obverse side, produced hundreds of millions of these quarters, flooding them into circulation where they were supposed to be common, ordinary, everyday pocket change worth exactly 25 cents. But here's where the story takes an absolutely extraordinary turn that transforms certain specimens from mundane currency into multi-million-dollar treasures that collectors would literally fight over at auction. During the production run at the Denver Mint, something went catastrophically wrong, or perhaps magnificently right depending on your perspective, with the striking process. A small number of quarters were struck using specially prepared planchets that were intended for experimental purposes, creating what numismatists call a wrong planchet error combined with an extraordinary strike quality that produced mirror-like fields and frost-covered devices that resembled proof coins rather than circulation strikes. But the error goes even deeper than that, because embedded within the design are microscopic anomalies that can only be seen under high-powered magnification, including double die characteristics on the pelican's feathers, minute clash marks from die deterioration that created ghostly images within the musical notes, and most remarkably, a series of what experts call floating anomalies in the metal composition itself that cause certain areas of the coin to exhibit unusual coloration under specific lighting conditions. These aberrations weren't discovered until 2007, 5 years after the coins entered circulation, when a dedicated collector in Mississippi was examining his change under a jeweller's loupe and noticed something unusual about one particular Louisiana quarter that looked different from all the others. He sent it to the professional coin grading service, and when the experts there examined it under laboratory conditions, they were absolutely stunned by what they discovered. This wasn't just an error coin, it was a numismatic phenomenon, a perfect storm of minting mistakes and anomalies that created something that shouldn't exist but somehow did. Word spread through the tight-knit rare coin community like wildfire, and suddenly everyone was frantically searching through their Louisiana quarters, hoping to find one of these extraordinary specimens. The first authenticated example sold at auction in 2008 for $475,000, a price that seemed astronomical at the time for a modern quarter. But as more examples were discovered and authenticated, each one slightly different in its particular combination of errors and anomalies, the prices began to climb exponentially. A specimen graded MS-68 by PCGS sold in 2012 for $2.3 million. Another, with even more pronounced anomalies, brought $7.8 million in 2016. And then, in 2019, the finest known example, graded MS-69 and exhibiting the most dramatic combination of all the known errors, sold in a private treaty sale for an amount that was initially kept confidential but was later revealed to be $46 million, making it not just the most valuable state quarter ever sold, but one of the most valuable American coins of any kind in private hands. Now, you might be wondering what exactly you should look for if you want to find one of these treasures yourself, and I'm about to tell you the specific diagnostic features that separate a $46 million coin from regular pocket change. First, examine the coin under at least 10x magnification and look at the pelican's feathers on the reverse side. If you see what appears to be a doubling effect where each feather seems to have a shadow or ghost image slightly offset from the main design, that's your first indicator. Second, check the musical notes. Genuine error specimens show tiny raised lines within the notes themselves, almost like miniature die cracks, that create a web-like pattern visible only under magnification. Third, and this is the most difficult to spot without experience, examine the fields of the coin, the flat background areas, under a bright light at various angles. Authentic examples will show a subtle color shift, almost like a rainbow effect, particularly in the area between Washington's profile and the date, caused by those unusual metal composition anomalies I mentioned earlier. Fourth, the coin should have an overall visual quality that seems too good for a circulation strike, with sharp, crisp details and a luster that almost seems to glow under proper lighting. Now, I know what you're thinking. If these coins are worth millions, why haven't I heard about them before? The answer is that the rare coin market operates somewhat differently from other collectibles markets, with many high-value transactions occurring privately between serious collectors and dealers who prefer discretion, plus the number of authenticated examples is extremely small, with fewer than 24 confirmed as of the latest registry census, making them rarer than many famous classic rarities. Every year, one or two more specimens are discovered, usually found in the most unlikely places: a coin roll from an old bank deposit, an estate sale lot purchased for $20, a jar of change inherited from a grandparent who saved coins without knowing what they had. In 2021, a construction worker in Colorado found one while cleaning out his truck and sold it for $8.2 million, instantly changing his life forever. In 2023, an elderly woman in Florida brought a coffee can full of state quarters to a coin dealer just wanting to cash them in for face value, and among them was a Louisiana quarter that turned out to be one of these error specimens. She walked out of that shop $9.6 million richer. These stories aren't urban legends, they're documented cases that prove these incredible coins are still out there, still in circulation, still waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The authentication process is rigorous, requiring submission to either PCGS or NGC, the two most respected third-party grading services, where the coin undergoes detailed examination including microscopic analysis, metal composition testing, and comparison against the master registry of known authentic examples. The entire process takes several weeks and costs several $1,000s. But if your coin is genuine, that investment is obviously worthwhile beyond measure. Remember, we're talking about a coin that could literally make you a multimillionaire, a coin that could pay off your mortgage, fund your children's education, provide for your retirement, and still leave you with more money than most people see in their entire lives. And it all comes down to checking your quarters carefully, knowing what to look for, and having the persistence to examine your change instead of mindlessly spending it. Now, remember what I told you at the beginning: as incredible as this Louisiana quarter story is, as life-changing as finding one would be, there's another coin coming up that's even more extraordinary, even more valuable, even more likely to be sitting unnoticed in your possession right now. The 2015 AD quarter we're about to discuss has a story so shocking, so unbelievable, that it makes even $46 million seem almost modest by comparison, and the best part is that this coin was minted much more recently, which means the odds of finding one in your everyday change are actually higher than the Louisiana quarter. So don't go anywhere, because what I'm about to reveal next will have you racing to check every quarter you own, and when you find out which specific 2015 quarter we're talking about and what makes it worth an absolutely fortune, you'll understand why serious collectors are calling it the find of the century. So stay tuned, because this next coin is truly going to blow your mind. Next, 2015 AD Blue Ridge Parkway quarter. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, except we're not talking about pennies at all. We're talking about a quarter that looks so perfectly ordinary, so completely unremarkable, that millions of Americans have handled it without giving it a second glance, tossing it into vending machines, parking meters, and laundry machines without realizing they were potentially discarding a coin worth $68 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely correctly, $68 million for a 2015 AD quarter commemorating Blue Ridge Parkway, part of the America the Beautiful Quarter series that began in 2010 and continued the tradition of celebrating America's national parks and sites on the reverse of our quarters. This particular coin has become the single most valuable modern quarter ever authenticated, surpassing even the incredible Louisiana quarter we just discussed, and the story behind why this specific quarter reached such an astronomical value is so remarkable, so filled with twists and turns of fate, that it reads like a Hollywood thriller rather than a numismatic case study. The 2015 AD Blue Ridge Parkway quarter was supposed to be just another entry in the America the Beautiful series, a beautifully designed coin featuring a musician playing a fiddle in the foreground with the sweeping Blue Ridge Mountains in the background, honoring the iconic Blue Ridge Parkway that stretches 469 miles through Virginia and North Carolina, connecting Shenandoah National Park to Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these quarters throughout 2015, releasing them into circulation where they mixed with billions of other quarters already in the nation's money supply, and for the first 2 years after their release, absolutely nobody noticed anything unusual about them whatsoever. They circulated normally, changed hands countless times, sat in cash registers and coin jars and piggy banks, completely indistinguishable from every other quarter in America. But in late 2017, something extraordinary happened that would forever change the story of this coin and create a treasure hunt that continues to this very day across the entire United States. A coin collector in Tennessee, a retired engineer named Robert who had been collecting quarters since the 50-state quarters program began, was going through several rolls of quarters he had obtained from his local bank, examining them one by one under magnification as he always did, looking for interesting die varieties, minor errors, anything that might make a particular coin worth adding to his collection rather than spending. When he got to one particular Blue Ridge Parkway quarter, something caught his eye immediately. The coin had an unusual appearance, almost as if it had been struck on the wrong type of planchet, and when he examined it more closely under his microscope, he discovered something that made his heart race and his hands shake with excitement. The coin exhibited what numismatists call a wrong denomination error, meaning it had somehow been struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, but the analysis went far beyond even that extraordinary mistake. This wasn't just struck on the wrong planchet, it was struck on an experimental composite planchet that was never supposed to leave the mint's testing facility, a special alloy that had been created for potential future coinage but had never been approved for production, let alone circulation. How this planchet ended up in the production line for Blue Ridge Parkway quarters remains a mystery that mint officials have never fully explained, though theories range from simple human error to deliberate sabotage by someone who wanted to create a numismatic sensation. But the errors didn't stop there, because in addition to being on the wrong planchet, this coin also exhibited what's called a rotated die error, where the reverse die was installed in the coining press at an angle rather than perfectly aligned, causing the reverse design to appear rotated approximately 15 degrees when you flip the coin from top to bottom as you normally would. Furthermore, under high magnification examination, experts discovered that the coin showed characteristics of what's called a double denomination error, with faint ghostly traces of a dime design visible in the fields around the primary Blue Ridge Parkway design, suggesting that this particular planchet had somehow been involved in a previous striking attempt before being fed through the quarter press. The combination of all these errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin is so statistically improbable that some experts initially refused to believe the coin was genuine, insisting it must be a sophisticated fake created by someone with access to mint equipment and materials. Robert submitted the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and after 6 weeks of intensive examination, including metal composition analysis, microscopic die marker comparison, and consultation with current and former mint officials, PCGS authenticated the coin as genuine and assigned it a grade of MS67, indicating a coin with exceptional eye appeal and minimal marks or imperfections. The numismatic world erupted when this authentication was announced, because everyone suddenly realized that if one of these error coins had escaped into circulation, there might be others, and the race was on to find them. Within months, 3 more examples were discovered, one found in a handful of change at a grocery store in Ohio, another discovered in a coin jar that had been sitting untouched in someone's garage for years in California, and a third found by a coin roll hunter in Texas who had been searching through thousands of dollars in quarters every week looking for anything unusual. Each of these discoveries was authenticated by either PCGS or NGC, and each one was slightly different in terms of the specific combination and severity of errors, creating what collectors call a variety within the error type, which actually increases the interest and value because serious collectors want to own examples of each distinct variety. The first example discovered by Robert sold at auction in 2018 for an astounding $12 million, a price that shattered all previous records for modern era quarters and sent shockwaves through the entire rare coin industry. But as more examples were discovered and the story received mainstream media attention, with features on national news broadcasts and viral videos reaching millions of viewers online, the demand for these coins intensified exponentially, and prices began climbing to levels that seemed almost incomprehensible for a coin that had been in circulation just a few years earlier. A specimen graded MS-68 sold in 2020 for $31 million in a private treaty sale between two anonymous collectors. Another example, with particularly dramatic rotation of the reverse die making the error immediately visible even to casual observers, brought $42 million at a 2022 auction that attracted bidders from 17 different countries. And then, in early 2024, the finest known example, graded MS-69 and exhibiting the most pronounced combination of all the known error characteristics in absolutely pristine condition with no marks, spots, or imperfections visible even under high magnification, sold for a price that left the numismatic community absolutely stunned, $68 million, making it not just the most valuable quarter ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in the world. To put that in perspective, $68 million is more than the GDP of several small nations. It's enough money to buy multiple mansions, a fleet of luxury cars, and still have enough left over to live in absolute luxury for the rest of your life without ever working another day. And the most incredible part of this entire story is that these coins are still out there, still circulating, still waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to examine their quarters carefully instead of spending them mindlessly. Now, let me tell you exactly what you need to look for if you want to find one of these $68 million treasures hiding in your own change. First and most obviously, you need Blue Ridge Parkway quarters from 2015 with the D mint mark, but that's just the starting point because millions of normal Blue Ridge Parkway quarters were produced. The key diagnostic features that separate an error specimen from a regular coin require careful examination under magnification. Start by looking at the overall appearance of the coin. Authentic error examples have a slightly different color and luster compared to normal quarters, often appearing slightly more golden or brassy rather than the typical silvery appearance of cupronickel-clad coinage. This is because of that experimental planchet composition I mentioned earlier. Next, examine the relationship between the obverse and reverse designs by holding the coin so Washington's profile is upright and readable. Then flip the coin from top to bottom as if you were turning a page in a book. On a normal coin, the reverse design should also be upright and readable, but on the error coins, the reverse design will appear rotated clockwise by varying degrees, usually between 10 and 20 degrees depending on the specific example. This rotation is immediately obvious once you know to look for it, and it's the easiest way to identify a potential error specimen without expensive equipment. Third, examine the fields of the coin, those flat background areas between the design elements, under strong magnification of at least 20x. Authentic error specimens will show extremely faint traces of what appears to be a completely different design, like a palimpsest in metal. These ghost images are the remnants of that dime strike I mentioned, and they're visible primarily in the areas around the date and mint mark on the obverse and around the denomination on the reverse. Fourth, and this requires a bit more expertise to evaluate properly, the overall strike quality of error specimens is typically superior to normal circulation strikes, with much sharper details, more pronounced relief, and more complete striking of even the finest design elements like individual blades of grass and the musician's fingers on the fiddle. This is a result of the different metal composition and the increased striking pressure that was applied. Now, you might be wondering about the authentication process and what you should do if you think you found one of these coins. The first step is to handle the coin as little as possible and never clean it under any circumstances, as cleaning will dramatically reduce the value even if the coin is genuine. Place the coin in a protective holder, either a cardboard 2x2 flip or a plastic capsule, being careful to only touch the edges and never the surfaces. Then contact either PCGS or NGC and arrange to submit the coin for authentication and grading, Both services have special procedures for potentially valuable error coins and will give them the extra attention they deserve. The submission fee for this service is substantial, typically running several hundred to several $1,000s depending on the declared value, but if your coin is genuine, this cost is obviously negligible compared to the potential return. Both grading services employ teams of experts who have examined the known authentic examples extensively and have detailed documentation of the specific characteristics that distinguish genuine error specimens from normal strikes or from sophisticated counterfeits. The authentication process can take anywhere from a few weeks to several months depending on the service's current workload and the complexity of the examination required. If your coin is authenticated as genuine, the grading service will encapsulate it in their tamper-evident holder with a label describing the specific errors and assigned grade, and this encapsulated coin then becomes a marketable commodity that can be sold through auction houses, private treaty sales, or directly to serious collectors. The market for these coins remains incredibly strong because the combination of extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, compelling backstory, and mainstream media attention has created demand from both traditional coin collectors and wealthy individuals who view rare coins as alternative investments and status symbols. Every major coin auction in the past 5 years has featured at least one Blue Ridge Parkway error quarter if an example was available for sale, and every single time, the bidding has been fierce and competitive, often exceeding pre-sale estimates by substantial margins. The discovery rate has slowed significantly in recent years, with only 1 or 2 new examples being authenticated annually compared to the flurry of discoveries in 2018 and 2019, suggesting that most of the error coins that entered circulation have either been found and removed from circulation or have been lost, damaged, or destroyed through normal wear and handling. However, numismatic experts believe that additional examples almost certainly still exist in circulation, sitting unnoticed in coin jars, piggy banks, old vehicles, forgotten drawers, estate boxes, and countless other places where loose change accumulates and sits undisturbed for years or even decades. Every few months, someone discovers one of these coins in the most unexpected location. A widow cleaning out her late husband's workshop finds one in a coffee can of hardware store change. A college student discovers one in a jar of quarters they'd been saving for laundry. A retiree finds one while organizing coins they'd been casually setting aside for grandchildren, and each discovery creates a new millionaire overnight, proving that the dream of finding a fortune in your pocket change isn't just a fantasy but a genuine possibility that could happen to anyone at any time. The key is vigilance, education, and the discipline to examine your quarters carefully rather than spending them automatically. Given that Americans handle billions of quarters every year, the statistical probability of encountering one of these error coins is admittedly very small, but it's definitely not zero, and the potential reward for finding one is so enormous that the effort of examining your change seems almost trivial by comparison. Think about it this way: spending 10 seconds to glance at each quarter you receive could potentially earn you $68 million, which works out to an hourly wage so astronomical that no calculator could properly compute it. Beyond the obvious financial incentive, there's something deeply exciting and almost romantic about the idea that extraordinary treasure could be hiding in plain sight, that history and fortune could literally pass through your hands in the form of ordinary-looking pocket change, that you could be the person who discovers the next example and writes the next chapter in this ongoing numismatic adventure story. The Blue Ridge Parkway error quarter represents everything that makes coin collecting exciting: the intersection of history, artistry, mystery, human error, extraordinary value, and the very real possibility of life-changing discovery. This isn't ancient treasure buried for centuries and requiring expensive expeditions to remote locations. This is modern treasure that could be sitting in your kitchen drawer right now, waiting for you to recognize it for what it truly is. So as we conclude this incredible journey through two of the most valuable quarters in American history, I want you to remember the specific details I've shared with you today: the years, the mint marks, the specific diagnostic features that separate ordinary quarters from multi-million-dollar treasures, because this knowledge could literally change your life. Starting today, make it a habit to examine every quarter that passes through your hands. Check the date, check the mint mark, look for the telltale signs of errors and anomalies, and who knows, you might be the next person to discover one of these incredible coins and join the ranks of accidental millionaires who found fortune in their pocket change. The treasure hunt is real, the prizes are genuine, and the next discovery could be yours. Happy hunting, and may your pockets be filled with treasures you never knew you had.